Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to give you the goods on how to change someone's mind based on their zodiac sign. So if you find yourself in a discussion and you're wanting to change the perspective that someone has, then hopefully this information will help you in taking the right approach. For this one, you can check sun sign, moon sign, and Mercury placement. Okay, no more wasting time. Here are the best ways to change someone's mind based on their zodiac sign. Let's go. So like many other topics, this can be broken down by element. So let's first start with the fire signs. The fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are pretty open-minded, but they are also opinionated at the same time, which is possible. You can be very passionate and outspoken about what you believe, but still be open to the perspective of other people. These three signs are very confident in what they believe, and if you're looking to change their mind on something, it can be a challenge. But with all three of the fire signs, there is one major component that needs to be in place if you expect them to be open to your opinion or what you have to say. And that one thing is this: they must first see that by your actions, not your words, that you practice what you preach. Then and only then will they be open to your opinion. So the thing is, if you're giving your opinion about something, the fire signs need to know that you know what you're talking about. And for them, that happens when they know that you have experience regarding the topic that you're speaking to them about. For example, if you're giving the fire signs relationship advice, but you're in an unhappy relationship, they're not going to give what you have to say much weight. They need a reference point that you yourself came to these conclusions of yours based on some action-oriented experience with positive results. If you tell them, hey, you should use coconut oil on your skin, then they're going to do two things. First, look at your skin, and then ask you, have you tried it? If you look like you just rolled around in an ashtray or a bowl of powder, they won't give much weight to anything you have to say. So if you're in any sort of debate with a fire sign, or even if you just want to give them some advice, or you find yourself in a situation where you're attempting to change their mind, you will have to have an example of where you have done what it is you're telling them to do and it yielded good results. They may go for it if you say that you know someone that did what you're talking about and they got good results, but they will want to know who that person is, and they're going to ask you a few questions to get clear if you're giving them a reliable account of the truth. But if you think you're going to change their perspective just by throwing out a passionate idea or two, or just because you say this is how you feel without some pretty strong evidence that is based in experience, nah, they're not gonna go for it. So to change the mind of the fire sign, you must make sure you have some experience-based knowledge, and they will respect you enough to be open to your opinion. Of the three signs, Sagittarius will most likely be the most open-minded, but will also fire off the most questions to make sure that you're not full of crap. Leo is pretty open-minded, but also for sure very confident in their perspective, but in the end, they won't let their ego get in the way of good information. Aries would be the most stubborn of the three in this area, only because Aries is pretty competitive by nature and isn't too into thinking that they're wrong when it comes to something that they are confident about. But like I said, if you have the experience to back up what you're saying, they will eventually open their mind and possibly change it based on the information that you're giving. Okay, the earth signs. First, let me tell you this. When it comes to the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, if they've made up their mind about something, it is very, very, very hard to change their mind. However, there is a two-step approach to changing the mind of any earth sign. The first step is taking the time to prove that what they're saying is wrong. I know you've heard me say this in previous videos, but the earth signs come to an opinion of theirs based on accumulating evidence to support their opinions. So if they're voicing their opinion on something, they are usually coming from a place of feeling like that opinion is pretty darn close to fact. So if you want them to be open to your perspective and it in any way contradicts their perspective, you should first start off by telling them why their perspective may be off. Just make sure you have hard evidence, because like the fire signs, they are not just gonna take your word for it. Make sure not to say things like, that's stupid, or why would you think that? This will only make them even more determined to stick to their point in order to not only prove to you that they are right, but more importantly, to make sure you end up regretting the fact that you implied or said that they were stupid for believing what they believe. If you just take the approach of sticking to the topic at hand without making any personal attacks, then you have a chance. So if you have some information based in facts, to prove them wrong, then you've completed the first step in getting their mind to change. However, you're not done with the earth signs yet. Step 2 will be defending your perspective by answering the many questions that they will have for you to see if your perspective is solid. Like I said, they're not just going to take your word for it. They will want to uncover if there are any holes in your perspective, so be patient and willing to answer the questions. Once you've completed both of these steps, you have a strong possibility that one of the earth signs will change their mind. They will also be more likely to have respect for your opinion from that point on, because they will see that when you decide to offer up some information, you have the receipts to back it up. So if you want to change the mind of an earth sign, first, I say good luck to you because it's not an easy task. And second, make sure you follow both of those steps. Number 1, disprove their perspective with fact-based evidence while making sure not to make any personal attacks, and always just stick to the topic. Don't just go off left field or take some random tangent that they're not trying to follow. And number 2, be ready to back up your perspective with fact-based information. And of the earth signs, Virgo is usually the hardest to sell, and this is usually because of the 3, Virgo is the most detail-oriented and diligent in finding information to come to a conclusion. So if you want them to change their mind, with Virgo you have the most hoops to jump through. With Capricorn and Taurus, they're pretty much neck and neck for second place, but Taurus will probably nudge out Capricorn for second because they just have more stamina when it comes to being stubborn with their perspective. Capricorn will eventually let it go a little sooner, sometimes just for the sake of keeping the debate to a more time-efficient minimum. Okay, the air signs. All right, the air signs are the most reasonable in this department because of all the elements, they are actually the most open-minded, which can be a beautiful thing. The key when it comes to changing the mind of a Gemini, Libra, or an Aquarius is for you to also approach them with an open mind. Meaning, if you approach any of these 3 air signs with the intention of changing their mind, you must first make it very clear that you understand their perspective. If you just throw a statement their way like, no, you're wrong, they won't even be open to the reason why you think they're wrong. Because with that approach, you're representing someone who's pig-headed and closed-minded, and they will put you into the, please will someone get this person out of my face category. Because the air signs are not too excited about interacting with someone that is obstinate and closed-minded. They respect and are very open to someone that they feel is intelligent, and they know that the key to intelligence is having an open mind. Intelligence comes from the ability to learn new information, and in order to learn new information, your mind has to be open to it. So if you're representing your perspective, but from the place of a closed mind, they are not interested in any further discussion or interaction with you. However, if you approach them by first making sure that they know that you understand where they're coming from, and you don't have to agree with them, but they need to make sure that you're at least allowing them to voice their perspective and that you're truly listening and attempting to understand where they're coming from. If they feel that sort of energy from you, then they'll be more than happy and actually excited to hear your perspective with the full possibility of changing their mind. If, of course, what you're saying makes sense. The air signs don't just stick with a point for the sake of sticking to a point. They enjoy exchanging ideas and actually welcome new information and new perspectives. But the key is when it is presented with the right energy, and that energy is, like I said, from someone that has an open mind. So when it comes to changing the mind of a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarius, you must first show them that you're open to understanding their perspective, and they will for sure be willing to adjust their perspective and be open to the possibility of you changing their mind. Starting your statement with, I get where you're coming from, but have you ever thought of it this way? That will work wonders. And of these 3 signs, Aquarius is usually the hardest to sell because they have a bit of a stubborn chip when they're passionate about an opinion, and they also pride themselves on knowing what they're talking about. Gemini also prides themselves on knowing what they're talking about, but they don't really want to put forth the energy to be stubborn because they don't really like conflict and would prefer to keep the conversation going. Because of that, they'll make more of an attempt to be open-minded. And Libra is never too attached to one opinion or the other, so they will be the easiest and most open when it comes to changing their mind, simply because more than likely at some point they themselves have entertained the same perspective that you're approaching them with. Okay, the water signs. Now the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are tricky in this area. What we know about the water signs is they have a strong trust and confidence in their intuition and their feelings. Because of this, the way that they feel in the moment has so much to do with the decisions that they make. So if you're coming at any of the 3 water signs with the intention of getting them to change their mind about something, it would be smart to first gauge what mood they're in. If they aren't in the best of moods, before you bring up the topic that you intend to discuss, first make an attempt at shifting their mood. With all three of the water signs, if you get them laughing, that switches up everything. Because if they're laughing, obviously they're already in or have just shifted to a good mood. So your comedy game better be on point. It's also important, even if they're in a good mood in general, to know how they're specifically feeling about you as a person. Because all three of the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, can actually already be in a great mood, but if they're not really feeling great about you specifically, then they're not going to be too open to what you have to say. And they'll definitely resist any information that's coming from you, simply because they don't like you. The water signs are very clear on who they like and who they don't like, on whose energy they're cool with and who they're just not vibing with. And they don't really care if what you're saying makes sense or not, because if they don't like you as a person, they're not really interested in anything you have to say. So with the water signs, if you want to change their mind, it is very important to know how they feel about you and what mood they're in. Because the only way you will get them in a receptive frame of mind is if you shift how they feel about you specifically, and if they're cool with you, it's making sure that they're also in a good mood overall. So remember, when the water signs are in a good mood, they are super open-minded and very receptive. And when they're in a bad mood, not only are they more than likely not willing to change their mind, but they would prefer not even to hear anything that you have to say. And if they like you as a person and are cool with you and your energy, they'll be open-minded and receptive and likely to change their mind if what you're saying makes sense. But if they aren't feeling you as a person, then whatever you say will go in one ear and right out the other. It's also important to make sure, even if they're in a good mood and they're cool with you, that you frame the information in a way that is not at all insulting. Because if you say something that they take offense to, the game changes and you are put right into that no thank you, I don't want to hear what you have to say category. So to change the mind of a water sign, you must first make sure that the way that they feel about you and the way that their mood in general is in a good space. Then you will get that receptive, open-minded, and very reasonable version of them. But if they're in a bad mood or not feeling you, nope, you get nothing. And the probability of them changing their mind is 0. Now, Scorpio is going to be the hardest sell of the three, because whether they like you or not, and whether they're in a good mood or not, if you aren't making enough sense to them, they're not changing their mind about anything. But making sure those two things are in place will at least give you a glimmer of hope. Cancer comes in a close second, only because if they really like you, they'll be much more open to your perspective. And Pisces is pretty much the most receptive of the three, because like Libra, they are constantly weighing all the options and don't have a hard time at all seeing someone else's perspective. But like I said, just make sure with all three of the water signs, you don't offend them in the process of communicating with them, or you're done. They will shut you down and shut you off quick. Okay, so there you have it. How to change someone's mind based on their zodiac sign. I hope you all found this information useful. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.